Miles Monroe often shared a story about visiting a cemetery and realizing it was the most concentrated collection of wealth on the planet. He noted that beneath the headstones were businesses that never incorporated, books that were never finished, and visions that reached the end of a life without ever reaching the world. The reason for this gap is structural. Every visible, physical result is first established in the spiritual realm. To be a ruler in the natural world, you must first be enthroned in the spiritual. Moving from a potential dream to an actualized movement requires a specific biblical protocol of consecration. This is the process of setting yourself apart to activate the capacity God has already placed within you. This protocol does not require seniority or social status. David became a national phenomenon at 14, and Deborah led Israel during an era when women were traditionally excluded from national governance. Their results were based on spiritual ranking, not physical age or gender. The difference between a vision that dies in the grave and one that shapes a generation is the willingness to trade physical appetite for this spiritual discipline. Step 1 is to stop waiting for God to move externally and begin identifying your own internal spiritual resources. Ephesians 3:20 states that God works according to the power that is at work within us. This means the scale of what God can do in your life is directly limited by the level of active power inside your spirit. Your spirit is like a deep well of salvation, but for many it remains a stagnant pool. When unexercised, spiritual debris forms an impermeable barrier, preventing the internal power from reaching your physical circumstances. Simply having the Spirit is the starting point. Without a deliberate mechanism to draw that water up, the power remains dormant and your life remains unchanged. The protocol of prayer and fasting functions as a spiritual gym. It is the specific exercise required to clear the obstructions and activate your internal capacity. Consider a person who is physically large but cannot carry a basic bucket of water. They have flesh but no functional strength. Fasting is the process of training your spirit so that it can carry the weight of a massive vision. There is a distinction between revelation, the information you know, and consecration, the spiritual weight that backs that information. Consecration is the discipline of maintaining a high spiritual standard through sacrifice. Negative cycles and spiritual opposition test for this weight. They look to see if your words are backed by a trained spirit. If there is no consecration, your revelation is viewed as empty talk. Even Jesus observed this protocol. He spent 30 years in the temple without a single demon acknowledging him. It was only after 40 days of fasting in the wilderness that he returned in the power of the Spirit, and his influence began to scale globally. Fasting is the currency required to convert biblical information into the tangible authority needed to rule your environment. Consistent fasting changes your spiritual signature. It increases your internal temperature, making you volatile to any negative interference. Consider the intelligence of a common housefly. It will land on cold food without hesitation, but it will not touch a plate that is steaming hot. By fasting, you become spiritually hot, creating a barrier that negative forces naturally avoid. Spiritual opposition recognizes this heat. When you are consecrated, you no longer have to beg for relief. Your atmosphere becomes uninhabitable for cycles of failure and oppression. We see this in the account of King Jehoshaphat. Facing 3 superior military forces, he did not rely on standard combat tactics. He called a national fast, and as the people consecrated themselves, their enemies turned on each other. When you reach this level of spiritual volatility, God fights the battles directly. Your primary task is simply to maintain the consecration, while the opposition destroys itself. This protocol also shifts you from defense to execution. It provides the clarity needed to launch new businesses, write impactful books, and build transgenerational movements. A dedicated fast clears the mental and spiritual fog, resulting in a high volume of actionable ideas. You begin to receive specific instructions for leadership and innovation that were previously blocked. When your work is backed by this power, even common ventures become exceptional. A standard business on a busy street can scale into a multi-million-dollar estate because the power of God attracts favor and influence that talent alone cannot produce. Most people fail to reach this state because they refuse to pay the price of physical discomfort. Do not return to your Creator with a vision still trapped in your heart because you chose food over your destiny. Global impact is not about doing something complex. It is about doing common things with the uncommon spiritual authority gained through fasting. By completing this protocol, you move from functioning by natural effort to functioning by spiritual inspiration. Isaiah 58 explains that this type of fast leads to the restoration of neglected areas. As your internal power grows, you gain the influence and resources needed to rebuild what was wasted in your family and your community, effectively ending cycles of lack. Start today. Select a specific window for prayer and fasting, whether it is 1 day a week or a multi-week commitment, to begin excavating the power already inside you. Trade your physical comfort for spiritual ranking. Observe the protocol, activate the well, and become the answer your generation is looking for.